Wait, was Jesus man?
You're equivocating on the term existence, not Jesus.
Well, no, I'm not equivocating. I'm using it in the sense that how he is presenting existing.
Well, in his sense, Jesus would exist.
So do I exist?
Yeah, in his view as a concept in God's mind. That's what he's been kind of saying this whole time.
So wait, am I not objective?
But by objective, you mean something that exists like
Outside
in
of
the
a mind, yeah,
external world?
mind independent.
Well, he doesn't think those things exist. So for somebody like Tree, there is no external world. There is no world outside of minds.
So
Because everything is like contained within a mind.
So that would mean that even his belief would be subjective.
Subjective?
Yeah.
I don't know what you mean. Like
Mind
Everything would be
dependent.
indexed
belief
to
would be
that
subjective?
mind.
Mind dependent, yeah. It would be subjective, right? So
Yeah.
literally everything is subjective.
pretty sure he said he was an idealist, right? Like a
Yeah,
subjective
he said it was
idealist.
an idealist.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it's just kind of trivial. It's almost expected that because he said he was a subjective idealist.
So even morality would be subjective.
Well, I mean, are you asking me this or are you asking him?
In accordance to idealism.
Oh, you'd have to ask him.
Do I take it to be subjective? Sure.
Oh. Okay, so then, like, what's the point of even believing in God?
How does that follow?
Yeah, so, like, if everything is subjective and it's just completely mind-dependent, and we could just, like, assume that believing in God or not believing in God doesn't really matter.
Why would it just
Because
not
it
matter?
all exists in God's head, right? So then it's all determined
Okay.
to happen however God wants it to play out, right?
Okay.
So then what's the point in believing?
What's the point in believing?
Mm-hmm.
Again, like to me, right? Belief is just irrational. Like,
Irrational?
I mean, yeah, I just think it's irrational.
Do you think faith is irrational?
Yeah, I think faith is irrational. That's what it means for you to have faith.
Yeah. Well,
It's
how would
irrational.
you define irrational faith? Or I'm sorry, how would you define irrational belief?
And when I mean irrational, I just mean it synonymously with that of irrational.
Yeah, I know. It's not rational nor irrational, but I'm challenging that because I think that faith is an irrational belief.
But why would faith be
Because
an
there's no
irrational
evidence
belief?
supporting faith would be believing
Oh,
without any
okay.
evidence for support, right?
Wait, why would you need evidence to believe in something?
Because then it wouldn't be faith if otherwise, right? Because it's belief without observance or evidence or any form of.
Pretty sure that's not what actually faith is. It's like a
So how would you
character of
define
what-
faith?
Yeah, you have to
Usually-
start with like what is your definition of faith?
My definition of faith?
Yeah.
I haven't really looked into like the semantics. I might take like a feudist, or I might take like a feudist interpretation of faith.
If you could just give me like a general gist of like what's needed for it to be faith or not faith.
I mean, for me, like how I would feudist, not fetus, feudist. I would probably say like it's not that you believe X is true, you just act as if X is true. I think that's just my account of faith.
Right, but there's no JTB, right?
Yeah, under my view, yeah, there is no JCB. I think
So
JCB.
wouldn't the under like your modal scope there's no JTB is what you're saying?
Under my view, there's just no JTB. Yeah, you're not making any knowledge claims. You're just acting as if it is true. You don't assert that you know that it's true. You don't believe that it's true or anything like that. Like that. You're just acting as if it's true.
So there's no even like you don't even believe in some sort of like asymptote of JTB, like even like approaching justified true belief?
I think the issue of that of JTB is that look, you're just going to run into skepticism, like all the time. You have to respect skepticism. So like, I mean, under my view, there's no real reason to accept skepticism because you're not making. What exactly are you going to be skeptical of?
want to
It
give
is,
it
you
to
have to-
one thing. It's consistent. I don't agree with it at all, but it seems like you're somewhat consistent in it.
Well, yeah, I mean, basically what he's saying is like justified
This is why I
knowledge
hate
can't really exist
idealism.
because, I mean, if we all exist in a mind, that mind makes everything subjective. So then there can't be any justification for that knowledge, right? Because it could just
That doesn't
change within an
follow.
instant, right?
That doesn't really follow. Just because like a JTB model of knowledge is not like a good one, it doesn't follow from that we don't have any knowledge at all, or like justification doesn't exist. It could just be that whatever knowledge isn't captured by that kind of epistemic model.
Right. So, but is faith not belief without justification?
No, unless that's how he defined it. That's not what I take faith to be.
No, he didn't really have like a justification. It was very nebulous.
Faith is
Well, I mean-
usually taken to be, it's not just like believing in some proposition like without justification, but usually under Christian theology, faith is taken to be a kind of, it's an assent that your intellect has. So it's like an intellectual assent towards like divine facts or divine properties that is in a sense instantiated or realized by virtue of God's grace. That's usually what Christian theologists take faith to be. Right, so it's not merely just a belief in a proposition without evidence, but it's like an assent of the intellect towards a certain set of divine facts.
Yeah, but based off of a premise that's not justified.
No, it's based off of
Someone in the
grace
comments saying who studies
that God
this and wants
delivers.
to do
It's
that.
based off of grace that God delivers.
Yeah.
So like
Because
That
the
wouldn't be a justified
facts,
premise,
because the
would it?
facts that the intellect is assenting to, the divine facts, is not something which is accessible through the empirical world, right? Like you'll never know any divine facts from looking at the actual world that you and I have direct access to.
yeah.
That's why it's kind of called faith.
So
Isn't-
like
Also,
Isn't that-
basically divine revelation, right?
so when it comes to things like Occam's razor, you just kind of like throw that shit out the window, right?
Like Occam's razor, can you show the connection that you're
Yeah,
making?
so like you're gonna have faith that like the 7-day creation exists. I can give you a more simple explanation of how it naturally is, how it's a natural process. And
I think it depends on the account of simplicity. Like, are you saying that like you can give an ontologically simpler explanation of like existential origins, like how the universe came into existence?
So it's going to be natural causes would be the simpler explanation. Then like a supreme being that we have no physical evidence of.
Well, what is your account of explanation? What do you think? What do you take an explanation to be?
What do I take an explanation to be?
Yeah, you understand. There's different accounts of explanation, right?
Right. So I mean, like a detailed account of an event or
A
action
detailed
taking
account of an
place.
event.
A
I
detailed.
don't think that's what an explanation is. You can have detailed accounts that don't explain anything.
I mean, that's fair.
I mean, you could just say it is an explanation would be the justification offered, right? Or it would be something that makes something clearer.
I don't think that's what an explanation is either. There's a lot of things that I can make clear that still don't explain anything.
What do you take an explanation to be?
It's going to be some type of like hypothesis that has predictive success.
So,
It's usually what people take explanations to be.
so it's a hypothesis that's justified,
No, it's a
hypothesis
hypothesis
that
that
turns
has
out to
predictive
be-
success.
right?
It's
Predictive
not just
success.
merely justification.
Would-
Justification is
how
like
would you-
introducing some other
Yeah, how would you-
completely
how would you
separate
get-
epistemic. Can I answer your question? Justification
No, I'm
is going to be
confused
something
still
which.
because of what you said just then.
Okay, well, I'm still going to answer the question anyway. That wasn't a cue for you to speak over me. That was a cue for you to stop talking so I can respond to the question that you asked me before you ask another one.
Okay.
Right. So now, anyway, back to the initial question that you asked me, and then you can ask me whatever questions you want. Again, it's not just merely like a hypothesis that has justification, because the term justification there is completely vague, right? You could have like, suppose that somebody semantics justification is like that if something seems to be the case, then they would be justified in believing an absence of defeaters. Of course, under that sort of notion of justification, you could have explanations that are successful, but that's just not what most people take an explanation to be. Now you can ask me your other question.
I don't even remember what my other question is at this point. It was just based on something you said that I wasn't completely certain of, but I've forgotten what you said at this point.
Okay. Well, I
don't
just want-
remember what it was.
I just want you to understand the distinction that I'm making between predictive success and justification. Like, do you understand now the distinction that I'm making?
I mean, kind of. I would just. How are you assessing predictive success?
Well, it's just going to be like
that's what my question was going to be.
Yeah, so I mean, it's just going to be like whether or not the hypothesis, right? Like when you sort of analyze the like outcomes, like what we would expect for this hypothesis to like say if it were to be the case that the hypothesis were true, it's going to be like it's either going to be the case that the predictions are going to be successful or unsuccessful. So they're successful just in case the hypothesis predicts something that isn't already found like within the hypothesis, or it's not like a trivial expectation, right? So,
am I understanding you correctly here? Would it be fair to say that a hypothesis has predictive success? And if it has predictive success, it's true.
Well, it's
right?
if a hypothesis has strong predictive success, then it's like a good one. It's a good hypothesis.
Right. Okay. So what would be the issue with saying that's a justified hypothesis? Exactly.
Well, again, because it depends. Like the term justification can sort of refer to many different things, right? So if the semantics of justification that one has is, say, for example, there's a view in epistemology, it's called phenomenal conservatism, which is the idea that if some subject has a belief in a proposition, right, P, that they would be justified in believing P, just in case P seems to be true and in absence of defeaters, right? So if there's like no known defeaters, then they would be justified in believing the proposition. Well, sure, but you could have those sorts of semantics, but imagine if a theist were to come up and say that to you, presumably you wouldn't accept that as a form of justification, right? Right?
As a form of justification, I think that's fine. I think that's what most scientists do, right? If there's no contradictory evidence.
Oh, sorry. Mm-hmm.
If there's no contradictory evidence, you would assume it to be the case, right? Like most of the time. If there's no evidence that malachite powder doesn't turn fire green, then I would be, reasonable to say malachite powder turns fire green.
Well, I'm not saying that it's like an absence of contradictory evidence.
Right?
I'm not saying that it's an absence of contradiction. I'm saying like it's just an absence of any known defeaters. But I'm saying, look, so if a theist were to come up to you and say that I believe that God exists, and I'm justified in believing the proposition that God exists, because it doesn't seem to me like there's any known defeaters to like sort of undermine my belief in the proposition that God exists, like you take on a view that that's sufficient enough justification for them to believe in God.
I'd say that's sufficient justification to believe in God. It's not for me to believe in God, but for them to believe in God, yeah, sure. But that's possible because if I give them contrary evidence, or if I give them more information that does defeat it, then they would either change their mind or they wouldn't. And if they don't,
that's kind of obvious.
I assume they're delusional, right?
Well, yeah, I mean that's kind of obvious, right? Like if you were to provide a defeater, then the belief would be defeated, right? That's kind of like what you said. I mean that's obvious, but look, I mean if that's sort of like your notion of what justification is, that's fine. But I just don't take on that notion of justification.
Yeah, to be specific though, it's justification enough for them to believe in it. I'm fine with that. It's just not justification for me to believe. I understand what you're saying, that there's different takes.
Well, then you're not
but you could classify justification as. I understand that, but what would you say is justified? What would you say an explanation is? What are your definitions for these things?
I've already given you like a sort of definition of what I take explanations to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, could you give me one for justification as well? Sorry.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So wait, hold on. Before we do that, can you just sort of like, can you tell me your notion of justification? Because that was like the initial question they were asking, and then I'm completely fine with us.
Now that you've said this, I'm not super certain. I'm not a philosophy student, so I'm not super certain now that you said this, right? Maybe I don't know what I have. I don't have the best understanding of justification, but I am curious what yours is.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. So I can just give you mine. So I think that justification is going to be, I'm not like a binary person in terms of justification. So I don't actually take the view that justification works either as some proposition being justified or unjustified. Instead, what I think justification is pretty much a twofold relation, right? So one, there's going to be a belief that you have, and that belief is justified to the extent that it's supported by both experiential evidence, right? So that's going to be like kind of sensory inputs that you have.
Wait, are you defining justification? I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but I thought you were defining justification. Because you're using justification within the definition, which is confusing for me.
Where did I use the term justification?
Like just now.
Can you like quote me what I said?
All I heard was justification within the definition. I couldn't tell you the rest because I wasn't following after that.
Okay, I'm pretty sure I didn't say that, but that's completely fine. I can just switch up the words. So I take on a view where there's a twofold relation, right? So one, so I take on a view where there's a twofold relation, right? So one, like if you're going to determine whether whether or not some belief is justified. I think this is what you're talking about. I wasn't talking about justification. I said if a belief is justified, maybe you misheard me, that's fine. Whether or not a belief is justified is going to be supported by two things. So one, it's going to be the experiential evidence that the agent has, right? So again, that's going to be like sort of sensory input from the world that the agent has, or it's going to be like perceptual or conceptual facts. The other one is going to be systemic coherence. So it's going to be how well the belief that the agent has actually integrates with the rest of their sort of belief systems that are sort of fixed by their overall fundamental conceptual scheme. So that's kind of like my view of justification, right? Is that I think it's like a two-place relation, but maybe you might have a different notion of justification. That's completely fine, but this is kind of deviating away from the original point anyways, but there you go.
No, that's fine. Thanks for explaining.
Cool. Yeah, so I actually came up initially because I wanted to talk to the host about the background prompt. Like when you say God is corrupt, I guess like tell me like where your head is at. Why do you believe this?
So,
what's the evidence for that? So on and so forth.
If you're going to hold to like classical, I don't know, classical Protestant belief, you're going to hold to that God gave us a set of commands, like the Ten Commandments, the laws, especially really the Ten Commandments, thou shalt not kill, right? And he's holding to this standard. And if you were to say that God is the judge, and that judge says, do not kill, and then goes and tells people, or goes behind people's backs and kills individuals, then he would be corrupt because he's not holding to this. It wouldn't be just. It wouldn't be held to the same standard he is judging people of. If anything, the judge needs to be held to an even higher standard, right?
Wait, sorry. So let me just sort of get clear on what you're saying. Is the claim that God is corrupt because he's a hypocrite? Is that the claim?
Essentially, yes.
Okay. So can you help me understand how exactly God is being a hypocrite?
Yeah, he says, don't kill, and then he kills a guy for picking up sticks.
Can you prove that God killed anyone?
Yeah, he smote him dead. Let's see.
Okay. Actually, to save time, like, let's just grant you that claim. So, on the supposition that God did kill people, like, are you making the claim that this is like an unjustified sense of killing?
Yes.
Or it would be like a justified... Oh, okay. So, I'm actually more interested in that. Like, how are you going to prove that God is somehow unjustified in anything?
Well, he didn't lay any conditions on the killing. He just flat out said, thou shalt not kill, right?
Well, sure, but how are you going to prove that God is unjustified in doing anything? Like, how can you even...
Yeah, I already explained it. I can explain it again. So if a judge sets a standard and then judges people according to that standard, if that judge goes and does the exact same thing against what he already said everyone else not to do, and then judges people for doing such thing, then he is not just.
Yeah, but that's just a repetition. Also, a judge is not God.
What do you mean?
Presumably,
it's just
a judge is not. It's like it's a repetition.
Wait, God isn't the judge?
Into question. God is not a judge. No.
God is not a judge. So who judges us at the end?
By judge, presumably you're talking about like a human person, right? Like in a courtroom.
No, I'm just. This is just if God is the judge, it holds no difference than if a man was a judge.
Yeah, that's false. You're saying that God is the same. You're saying that God is a judge the same as a human judge because they're both judges. I'm saying that's like a false.
Yeah, that's called special pleading.
How? What part of what I'm saying is special pleading?
Yeah, you're saying because he's God. You're saying because he's God, he doesn't hold to the same standard as, say, a human.
I never said any of these things. You just put those words in my mouth.
Well, that's gonna be the only argument you can come up with in order to try.
Yeah, that's false. There's like a plethora of arguments that I can give.
Give me
so I don't know why you're trying to like. Well, yeah, but I asked you a question first, which you dodged, so I can give you the arguments.
No, go ahead. I didn't mean to dodge. I'm sorry. Throw it at me.
Yeah, so like how are you going to prove the claim that God is unjustified in doing anything? Like how do you even begin to sort of analyze that claim? Firstly, what does it mean to be justified and unjustified?
Yeah, so if you're a hypocrite, it's unjust. Hypocrites are unjust. No,
but what does unjust and just mean?
Yeah, so that's actually, you know what, that's a good question.
Also, just for clarification for the comments, like nobody once said God is a special judge. So I'm not sure like where people are getting this like notion from, but that just simply was not said by anyone.
It's a special plead because it would be considered unjust for a human judge to do that, but it's considered just for no apparent reason other than God is God and is special.
Yeah, but that's just to assume that there is no apparent reason, right? So again, like the special pleading critique is
going to be based on
what would the reason be?
Look, you don't have to know the reason for it to like not exist, right? Like just because you don't know the reason doesn't mean that it doesn't exist.
Hang on. That doesn't make sense though. You're just saying hypothetically.
It makes perfect sense.
Justifies it.
I'm saying, yeah, of course. This is like
that justifies it.
Yeah, there's like a whole fucking field in philosophy.
Right.
This is called skeptical theism, right? Like that's the whole idea is that there could be reasons that we just in principle could never have access to, and that's not a problem for the view, unless you can illustrate an issue with that view.
I think that's a problem. I think that's a problem massively.
Yeah, so illustrate the problem with the
sense.
view. What's the problem with the view of skeptical theism where there could be like sufficient reasons that we just simply are limited from having access to
Sure,
as a result
okay.
of our conceptual limitations? Like what's the issue with that?
Sure. What's the primary motive? What's the primary?
Wait, sorry, don't ask me any
message
questions.
imparted?
Just prove the claim that you're making.
Yeah, sure, okay. Jesus' ministry was largely about doing as he did. It's about being like him. If the goal is to be like God in Christianity, it doesn't really make sense for God to behave in ways that are contradictory to human nature entirely.
You're not really
such as
showing
doing things
a
that
problem with the
I'm not
view
done
of
talking.
skeptical theism.
I'm not done talking, so I don't
Yeah,
know why
but
you're
you're
interrupting me.
already
I don't know why
not-
you're being a rude prick.
You're
I don't
already
know why you're
not
being a rude
addressing
prick.
the question.
I don't know why you're interrupting me
Yeah,
and being
just calm
hyper-aggressive
down.
about it.
Don't crash out. Relax. Get a control of your emotions.
I'm
trying
not
to get this
crashing out. You're
conversation
being
back on
rude,
track.
and you're being told that you're being rude. So
You're not answering the question,
Stop
though.
interrupting me. I am. Just stop interrupting me.
Why is he crashing out?
Yeah. So Jesus's ministry was largely about doing what he was supposed to, doing as he does, right? It doesn't make sense, right? If God wants people to be like him, for him to do something completely contradictory to human nature entirely, such as being completely hypocritical with his own standards of justice. He sets the standard of justice. If he doesn't abide by it, that's a special plead. He's giving himself special exemption.
Nice. Can you
For no
reproduce my
clear
question?
reason.
Yeah, can you reproduce my question?
No, what's your question? Just state it again. Go for it.
So
I'm
just to be
pretty sure I
clear, like
answered
when you
but go
just so just to be clear, when you threw like your little tantrum just now about how I was interrupting you for you not answering the question, you don't even know what question you were asking.
ahead. I'm pretty sure you asked me what makes it unjustified, right?
Say it again.
I'm pretty sure you asked me what makes it unjustified. What's the problem with the view, right?
No, that's not what I asked you.
What did you ask then? Clarify.
Okay. So again, when I interrupted you previously, it was not for me. It was not like an irrational interruption. It was for me to like.
Are you going to clarify? Or are you just going to play meta?
I'm literally doing that right now. So
this is
again,
really boring,
the
dude.
question that I asked you previously, was, how are you going to prove, or excuse me, rather, like, what's the issue with the skeptical theist view, where there could, in principle, be reasons that exist. There could be these kind of reasons that God has to act, but we don't have access to those reasons because we're conceptually limited entities. What is the issue with that?
I'd say one day my dick could come chocolate.
Okay, so yeah, that's just not going to be a response against the view.
It's pure
Right.
nonsensical.
So yeah,
hypothetical.
we can just like get rid of
Like
you,
you're saying,
pack him up, and
I
put
have
him back in the
questions about
corner.
it.
He doesn't
So-
have an argument against the view, so we can talk to
I
the
have a
host.
question about it.
I think that's a pretty clear argument. It doesn't
Wait,
make
just to be
any
clear,
sense, is
do you
what
think
I'm
that's an
pointing out
argument?
to you.
Like your argument against skeptical
That's
theism
not
is
an
that your dick
argument.
could turn
That is
brown one
sad.
day? Are you dumb? What are you talking about? That's complete idiots. That's
You
like
made
Do
it-
you not understand the comparison?
There's
No,
no,
it's-
that's,
it's a trash
that's not an
comparison.
argument. Oh my
You're,
god.
And it's
you're
also
saying
not an argument.
anything could explain
You're
this.
asking
You're
me
saying
to give
anything
an
that we just don't know
argument.
about could
Can you give
explain
an
this. And
argument?
it's like,
You don't
that's
have an
not
argument
really
against
real.
skeptical
Hold on.
theism.
Hold on.
You just said your dick could be brown.
So
How's that an argument?
your original
I said my dick could be made of chocolate, to be clear.
That's
Yeah, I
not
mean,
an
that's
your
completely
argument.
original
irrelevant
question is
to
how
skeptical
can it be
theism.
unjustified? Correct?
It's a reduction. But
Or-
No, my
defend-
question is, no, my question, just to be clear, is what exactly is the issue with the view that God could, in principle, right, in the sense that it's possible for God to have a set of reasons for why he allows for and permits for certain evils within the world, yet we specifically, as conceptually limited entities, don't have access to those reasons because those reasons are over and above what we have conceptual access to. Like,
Right.
can anybody here illustrate an issue with that kind of view?
Just before I lay it out, do you hold the JTB?
such as what?
Do I what?
Do you hold the JTB?
Do I hold to JTB? No, I don't.
Oh, shit. So how do you define knowledge?
I'm not sure if there's like any specific clear definition of knowledge. I think I'm fine with just broadly characterizing knowledge as like awareness of a set of propositions or facts.
Okay. So if I were to provide you with like a premise of how, or if I were to say it's unjustified because we have yet to receive any form of justification for these actions,
That would just be an unjustified inference.
how would it would be an unjustified inference? It's
Yeah,
I
like
would,
it-
I would
it
yeah I
can't-
would reject that. I would say that it is justified based off the lack of evidence.
Wait, what?
The claim is justified based off the lack of evidence, right? If I'm
He's saying
saying
that's a non sequitur, bro.
if I'm saying it's not a non sequitur, he can easily build upon it, right? All I'm telling him is that if you have no clear reason of why he did these things, even though you're inferring that we have liminal knowledge to why he did such thing, unless he gives us such reason, it's not justified. right? A murderer can.
How can we know anything about God?
If the president unalived his wife and then didn't hold to
we can hear you, Kojo.
to any kind of if anybody did anything unjustified or did something that seemed to be wrong without any form of justification, such as like say self-defense to kill somebody, right? Then we would still hold them to be unjustified, right? They did the action unjustified. So if God didn't give us a just reason, then it's unjustified for doing that reason.
Wait, I think I'm right. How can you know anything about God then?
How can you know anything about God? Okay, well that's like a separate question.
That's just my question about your view, right? Like,
I know it's your question,
my
but I know it's your question. That's obvious because you asked it, but that's a derail question that goes into a completely separate topic.
Sure.
Right.
I'm also just saying that's my question.
I heard you the first time. Like, okay, we get it. It's your question. I know. But the point to the host is that you're not still proving the claim that there's some kind of issue with a skeptical theist hypothesis where, again, God has these reasons that we just don't have access to because of the fact that we're conceptually
So wait, if you're saying that there is, you're saying that there is a possible, there is a possible just reason to commit genocide. Is that what you're saying?
There's a what?
There's a possible just reason to commit genocide?
Yeah.
Yeah, please provide it for me.
Again,
what?
we don't have access to that. Did you just...
Yeah, but he's baking in the word genocide, which is obviously evil, right? God unaliving like a bunch of people, first off, you'll have to prove that genocide, right? That's one. Secondly, he's just telling you that, like...
We'll get to you. I kind of want to hear his explanation on the justification of genocide.
But I agree with him, though. I agree with what he's saying.
He's not giving you... Bro, you're not tracking right now.
What would genocide meaning?
That's not the view. You're not attacking the view.
What
It's interesting. But from
I'm
what you said, my understanding is that this is a defense against the problem of evil, largely, right? It's like we shouldn't expect to understand God's reasons.
Well, I mean, that's kind of like what the host is bringing up. It's sort of like forwarding here. It's just this idea that God is like an evil God because of the fact, or God is corrupt, because of the fact that he permits for certain like evils. He allows for certain evils. So I'm putting forth like a potential response, and there's no response.
Let me clarify.
I still need to know what he means by skeptical theism then, because
I've already said that.
Then I need clarification because I didn't understand, which is totally my fault, right? Like, sure. I recognize that I didn't understand that. Yeah, Can you clarify?
So it's just the view that God has potential reasons that we don't have access to. We're conceptually limited from having access to the reasons that God possesses.
Yeah, I just think that that's an unjustified view.
Why are we unable to access them?
Because we're conceptually limited.
Yeah, that's just a claim. That's just a claim for ignorance.
So if we remain conceptually limited,
it's an appeal.
Do you know
to
what
ignorance.
appeal to? Wait, excuse me. Can you tell me how that's an appeal to ignorance?
Yeah, because you're saying you don't know the reasons for God allowing evil, but you accept it that He is a just God, and that these reasons, though unknown, are just. It's an appeal to ignorance.
Wait, who made the claim? Wait, what? Oh, sorry.
You said you're a skeptical theist, right? And a skeptical theist is someone who...
No, I didn't say that.
You're not a skeptical theist? Then why the fuck are we talking about skeptical theism?
Because this is a response against your view that you can't even challenge.
Well, I think the challenge is pretty clear, though.
I'm still waiting for my...
Wait, hold on. Just speak. Okay, guys, listen. We can't do this thing where there's several people asking multiple different questions at the same time. Like, that's just not going to work. So we have to, like, stick to one train of thought. Like, if the host wants to have a dialogue, then we could do that. But, like, there's several people asking multiple different questions. It's kind of making it hard for the audience to listen to the conversation that's happening. Okay? So, again, back to the host question. We can just stick to this, right? The host is asking, or rather, he's making a claim that my view of skeptical theism, the view of skeptical theism, I should say, is something which is an appeal to ignorance because of the fact that what exactly? Like, it's not clear how you're saying the view is an appeal to ignorance. So just lay that out.
If the definition, let me clarify. Yeah, because if the definition is, for skeptical theism is God's reasons for allowing evil, suggesting that apparent evils may serve as a greater purpose beyond human comprehension, right? Is that not it?
Yeah.
Okay, so if this is what you're allowing to allow any action that God takes to be justified, then you're saying that there is no action or there is no knowledge necessary to justify said actions because He's God. What? You're
how does it follow
to
from that? How does it follow from the fact that God has reasons that we don't have conceptual access to?
Right, because God's not here to defend himself, right? So it's your job to defend him.
Okay, but then that's just not an argument against the view.
If you have no justification for God to do these things, then you're appealing to ignorance.
Oh my God.
This is not, again, that's not an argument. Again, number one, you didn't demonstrate how it's the case that it's an appeal to ignorance. Two, that's not an argument against the view.
I didn't?
Saying,
so do you have knowledge?
Saying,
wait, do you have knowledge of why God does evil things? Wait, do you have knowledge of why God does evil things?
Why he does? I don't think God does evil things.
Or why does God allow evil things?
Do I have knowledge about it?
Yeah.
Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Some of them, yeah.
Yeah. Do you believe God is just?
Yeah.
Then it's appeal to ignorance.
Okay, prove that claim. Like, what? What do you think it appeals to ignorance?
Yeah, because you have no knowledge. You're ignorant of the knowledge of what makes it. What makes? Yeah, you're ignorant of that knowledge. And if there is no argument, to defend God's just actions, or supposed just actions, it's ignorance, right? You're appealing to ignorance. You're just saying, I don't know why, but God is just.
Oh, okay. Again, that's not what an appeal to. Why'd you guys kick that other guy, by the way? Because he was like
Hirson consistently talks. You can't have a conversation.
Kept trying to interrupt you too.
I mean, I'm fine with like doing like a 2v2 thing, like or whatever. But anyway, yeah, that's just not simply. Again, you're not proving the claim that it's an appeal to ignorance. You're just describing the view and then tacking on it being an appeal to ignorance without demonstrating how it's the case.
Are you ignorant? Like are you ignorant of the reasons? Wait, are you ignorant of the reasons why God does allow evil?
Again, what do you mean by ignorant?
Lack of knowledge, unknowing.
I don't think that's what ignorance means.
That's. I'm pretty sure that's what ignorance means. I'm pretty sure.
How do you? Define, I don't think. No. Go ahead. How do you define ignorance?
Well, you're the one that's.
Because I may be ignorant. I'm probably ignorant of it, right? So you're gonna have.
You're ignorant.
Yeah, you're probably gonna have to. Define it for me, so I'm not so ignorant of it.
What was your definition?
So then, when you were saying that I was an appealing to ignorance, what did you have in your head as a concept of ignorance?
Right. So lack of knowledge.
Okay. So to be ignorant is just to have a lack of knowledge of something.
Yeah.
And that's like a sufficient condition for being ignorant, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So I guess like under this notion of what ignorance is, of course, trivially it would be an appeal to ignorance, but I'm not sure if that's what we want to say an appeal to ignorance is.
I'm pretty happy with that. I'm not sure about anybody else, but I'm pretty happy with that.
I'm still a little confused on skeptical theism. Sorry, I need something explained to me. How do you draw the line between the things that you can't know God's reasons for allowing evil?
Sorry,
necessarily, even if it is evil.
I just got a phone call.
Or you're fine.
That's okay. Do you want to take the phone call and come back?
No. It's cool. I'm just letting you know because I didn't hear what was said for the last 30 seconds.
That's okay. That's all right. I'm asking for some clarity because I'm still a bit confused on skeptical theism. Like I said, first day I've heard that phrase used and heard it rendered in the way you've rendered it.
Okay.
How do you draw the difference between the things you can't know God's reasons for allowing evil versus we can know other things about the world? How exactly do you stop yourself from collapsing into radical skepticism?
It's just a difference in like knowledge, right? So there's a sense in which we can know things about the world,
or global,
in a sense where we have like direct empirical access to like real world facts. Oh, I don't know if you like that or whatever, but he said rocks are ignorance.
No,
yeah, I mean, look, that's just going to be like
that's
unintuitive consequence of that view. That's why, like I was asking you previously, by the way.
Okay,
like,
yeah,
if
you're
taking
jump in here.
Then an agent
Please.
has lack of knowledge. How about that?
An agent that has lack of knowledge. Yeah, I still don't think that's good enough.
Yeah,
I still don't think that's good enough.
So
look, you have a computer in front of you, right?
Yeah, you go ahead and you define ignorance for us.
Yeah, so when I talk about like what an appeal to ignorance is, or ignorance broadly speaking, I'm just talking about like it's a type of informal fallacy in reasoning, essentially, where like you're making the claim that something is going to be the case in absence, like in virtue of the fact that the opposition to your view has not presented any evidence, right? Like that's going to be what an appeal to ignorance is.
That's exactly what skeptical theism is doing. What are you talking about?
So we've circled back to the initial thing which I asked you previously. Which
I think I have a syllogism against it.
Well, before you do that, this is so disorganized. Like again, this is like another thing where you're going to introduce some other new syllogism, and then we're going to have to go down a whole dialogue tree.
No, I just think that I have a really, really, really strong thing against this skeptical thing. Like, if you are going to say you can't make a reasonable judgment about his character, you have to remain consistent in that across all aspects. I'm not going to give room on this.
You're not going to give room on what? You don't even know what the conversation is, man. Respectfully,
How
I'm
do
not
you
even sure you're
distinguish?
tracking
No, her question,
what's going
her
on.
question's
No, well,
perfectly
what I'm
reasonable, dude.
recognizing
Don't be
as
a dick.
skeptical
it's a
theism is
reasonable
that
question and a syllogism. It's good. Please.
Like, I think what you guys are doing is that you guys have the problem is that I think what you guys are doing is you guys literally just now today, a second ago, heard about skeptical theism, and what you're doing is looking for reasons to falsify the view.
Phenomenal conservatism, but
instead of
with
actually trying
God
to understand.
flavored?
Did you say skeptical theism is phenomenal conservatism, but God flavored?
That's what it fucking seems like, man. Like, yeah, there are some distinctions, but tell me I'm fucking wrong.
I think what I don't understand, Kay, is this, and you can maybe
that's crazy, bro.
Maybe Kay, you can help me understand this. It's hard for me to defend against the skeptical theists. I think skeptical theism is actually pretty good against like stuff like PoE and like this kind of stuff. But I know like maybe in something in relation to PoE is like how do we understand God is good, or what does good mean here when we talk about God?
Yeah, I'm perfectly fine to answer that question, but I just want to go back to what the host was saying. Again, this is like another derail. That like, God, this live is so disorganized. It's giving me like a
all right. That's fair. You can wrap up. You can wrap up the stuff for the host, but I think that's the next step.
Sure. Yeah. So again, do you understand, hosts, what an appeal to ignorance is?
Yeah.
Now?
So let me try to lay it out clear for you one more time. Skeptical theism can be seen as an appeal to ignorance because it is suggested that our inability to think of a good reason for the existence of evil may not be indicative of the existence of a good reason for evil. Does that make sense?
Say it one more time.
Skeptical theism can be seen as an appeal to ignorance because it suggests that our inability to think of a good reason for the existence of evil may not be indicative of the existence of a good reason for evil.
Okay, and you're saying that this is something which is an appeal to ignorance?
Yes. This is the argument for it being an appeal to ignorance.
Oh, that was supposed to be an argument?
Well, it's not a formal argument, but this is why I see skeptical theism as an appeal to ignorance.
Okay, is maybe there's somebody else here that can sort of re-explain what it is that because I'm not understanding how what he said is an appeal to ignorance.
I think I understand. So it would be like we don't see a reason for evil X, therefore evil X may have a reason beyond our comprehension, so we can't infer God doesn't exist from that. That sounds like an appeal to authority to me.
Well, it's not that he was inferring that God doesn't exist from that. He was inferring that God is somehow a hypocrite from that fact, and I'm saying that that's not the case. But
sure, that's fine. So we
that's
can't
kind of like a minor detail.
Yeah. That doesn't matter. How is it not an appeal to ignorance, though? It's inferring a positive claim about God's inscrutable reasons based on our lack of knowledge, right? That seems like an appeal to ignorance. Why is it not?
Well, again, the reason why it's not is because you have yet to prove how it is.
Well, it fits the bill for an appeal to ignorance. I'm confused on what you mean prove how it is.
Again, I'm not seeing
of an appeal to ignorance argument.
Again, I'm not seeing how you've done that.
Premise one, we are ignorant of God's...
How are you not seeing that? What?
Premise one, we are...
Again, because you haven't laid out how it's the case or demonstrated how it's the case that it's...
Yeah, sure, I'll do it again. So we don't see a reason for evil X, therefore evil X may have a reason beyond our comprehension, so we can't infer God is a hypocrite or isn't a hypocrite, or something like that, right? That sounds like an appeal to ignorance to me.
It's an appeal to ignorance.
Why is it not?
Look, is he not the one that's making the claim that God is unjust or a hypocrite because of the fact that he doesn't know the reasons that God has?
Yeah, but your assertion was that nobody could challenge skeptical theism here.
I never made that assertion, by the way.
Yes, you did. You said nobody could challenge skeptical theism.
I literally said I have a syllogism ready to defeat that shit. If you would give me the fucking time of day, but it's fine.
You verbatim said
if you want to
nobody
give
could challenge skeptical theism.
Let Missy go.
That's what you said.
Let Missy go.
I didn't say. Well, just to be clear, I never said that nobody can challenge skeptical theism. What I said specifically verbatim was, is there anyone here that has a view to offer up against the view? And so far, what you guys have come up with is this appeal to ignorance claim that you're.
I believe Missy may have something.
You can act like it's not a valid.
Okay, some questions.
The challenge it's a fallacious claim.
When you're talking about skeptical theism, are you saying you can't make like a reasonable judgment because you don't have access to omnipotence or omniscience? Is that what you're saying?
You can't make reasonable judgments because you don't have access to omniscience. No, I'm not
about God's what God would do, like what God's inclinations or attitudes would be towards that. Could you know that?
Could we, in principle, know what God's reasons are? Is that what you're asking? No.
Okay. If you cannot do that, how can you know anything about the aspects of God?
I thought you said you had a syllogism.
Okay. If one cannot make a reasonable judgment about what God might do, would do in a situation, then you can't know any other aspects of that God or tenets, therefore, of the religion.
Can you prove that first premise?
The first premise? Yeah. I mean, I asked you, do you accept that your... For the first premise, I asked you if you could make reasonable judgments on what God's attitudes or like what he can do. You said yes. Is that correct?
Sorry, I keep getting a phone call. Somebody's spam calling me. I'm not sure who, but repeat yourself. What was the defense for the first premise?
No, I was saying, yeah, I asked you if this is your, like, what is your definition of, like, do you hold to the traditional kind of, like, skeptical, theistic kind of idea?
Yeah.
How is this relevant to you providing proof?
Here.
Because I need to know if you hold to it.
Why?
Okay.
You need to know that?
Jesus Christ. Okay. Then, let's just say, if you accept skeptical theism, that you cannot make reasonable judgments about what God would do, right? P2, if you cannot make reasonable judgments about what God would do, you cannot make reasonable judgments about any other aspect of God or the religion.
Can you prove that part? The part where you say, just because we don't know the reasons that God has for this specific act X, therefore we can't know anything about God. Can you prove that claim? Like, how does it fall from the fact that we don't know why God allows for...
If you don't have access to the knowledge in one way, you can't have access to the... I'm asking you...
Okay,
right?
So it's a question begging argument then. So you were crying that whole time to give a syllogism, which ended up being circular.
I can give you a...
Answer the context, man. I'm not a philosopher, man.
Yeah, but your argument isn't
trying my fucking best.
I know you're trying your best.
I just think that my argument makes sense.
Let me try to help.
You are just kind of being a rude prick at this point, dude. Like, just be
Like,
reasonable.
How is that being a
obviously,
prick?
I am more of a layman than you.
Because you're being rude and dismissive
right?
for no fucking reason. You're talking about crying.
Yes, of course I'm going to dismiss circular arguments, Yeah, of course I'm going to
It's
dismiss
entailed.
circular
Baby
arguments.
man, have some decorum about yourself.
Dude, it's fucking entailed. If you
Just
can't make
calm down,
judgments,
Steele.
then you
Stop.
can't make judgments.
She's not going to
I'm
have sex with
perfectly
you, I
calm.
promise you.
I'm
She's not
perfectly
going to
calm.
have-
I'm gay. I'm
she-
not worried about that. Trust me, I'd rather have you.
You're gay? Okay, that makes
listen,
sense, yeah.
You need
That makes a lot more
to
sense
seriously,
now.
like...
You're
It makes
so
more sense why you're so
immature.
emotional and like
Why
fucking
does that make
sporadic
sense?
and erratic with your emotions.
Homie.
But
Emotional
anyway,
and sporadic.
Calm
back to what she was
down,
saying.
it's
Yeah, I'm
okay.
absolutely going to
What
dismiss
happened
an
to you as a
argument.
child
Okay.
exactly?
I've
Did someone
abs-
hit you too much?
My childhood was great.
Can
Yours
you
Was
was
your
just,
parents, brother, and
Probably
sister?
why you ended up
seriously,
the way
bro.
you did now.
Seriously, bro. Seriously,
My
bro.
childhood
Take
was
me
perfectly
seriously,
fine. I
and
didn't
not
end up
just
gay.
because I have a
That doesn't
fucking
sound like it
vagina,
was.
right? Don't
You're the one
just
that's
take
gay,
my fucking
trying
argument
to be
seriously
like-
for a second, right?
I'm
I am
not
saying that
actually,
if...
buddy.
Oh my
Just to let you know
god.
that.
Anyway, so yeah, of course I'm absolutely going to dismiss.
No, shush.
Oh, okay.
No, shush,
now
shush,
you're
shush,
right.
shush,
Are you bad now?
shush.
They don't like me. They don't like K.
Shush. Okay. The problem with skeptical theism is that you already have stipulated that because we don't know any of the propositions, any of the state of affairs or propositions that God is aware of during certain action that we may consider moral, and you also haven't provided an argument nor any form of evidence, then there's no reason for me to even say otherwise in my position.
Who is even talking right now? Like, who is that?
The guy below you, you dumb fuck.
Okay.
Sorry, you're just like so.
You're in an open forum, dude. There's multiple.
No.
people
I'm
here.
just
You're gonna
saying,
have
like
to accept
he's.
that.
Yeah, but he's like so far below me, I almost forgot he even existed. So I
Okay.
just didn't even know.
Yeah,
like,
okay.
who that
Yeah.
was.
Why
Open
are
your
you just a rude
fucking
piece of
ears.
shit?
Open your fucking
Anyway,
ears.
so-
Open your
Okay,
fucking
wait,
ears. Open
I
your
get
Calm
it.
down,
I
man.
get
Just calm
it.
down.
You
It's
feel
okay.
Like,
threatened
you
now,
ran
and
out
that's
of
why you're like,
arguments.
I'm
Guys, we
being
don't have to
attacked.
trash out. It's
Switch
okay.
to being a
calm
dick.
It's
down.
not that
What's the
deep.
deal
It's
with
just
that?
TikTok. It's
Hey, 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 hey.
No, I
Everybody.
agree, Case, and Kay is trolling right now.
Yeah, it's just.
Why are
it's
they
like
so
rude to
bad?
At
anyone
this
who
point, you're
knows.
just like being
Hold on.
emotional, and it's fine.
Yeah, let me
Okay,
just
okay.
let me just clarify this because I do have a syllogism and it's written out, so we're not going to be stumbling, right? Let's clear this fucking up, right? Premise 1, an appeal to ignorance occurs when someone claims a proposition is true because there is no evidence proving it false, or vice versa, right?
Isn't that what you're doing?
Do you agree or disagree?
Yes, but that's what you're doing.
Premise 2, skeptical theism argues
Wait, why'd you just
that we
dodge my
cannot
question?
know God's reason for allowing suffering. Therefore, we cannot conclude that such suffering is gratuitous. Do you agree?
I'm not making any claims about suffering. You're talking. You
Evil.
understand
Okay,
there's
evil.
different
We could say evil, injustice, whatever, dude.
Hold on. Do you understand there's different forms of like what's it called? Skeptical theism. I've given you a very specific form. I don't know why you guys keep going on
All right,
Google
what's the
and looking up arguments that I'm
classification
not
for
making.
that specific form?
I've already told you again, this formulation that I'm giving currently is just a view where there are reasons that God has to sort of like allow or permit for a certain state of affairs, but we don't have access to them because we're conceptually limited. That's it. That's all. I'm not
Yeah,
making
I
any
know,
other
but how
claims
does that
on why you
premise
guys keep
fall
doing this
outside
thing
of
where
what
go
you
on Google.
explained? How does the premise
Say it again.
How does the premise fall outside of what you explained?
Well, before we get to that, can you answer my question?
No, because I didn't hear it because I'm still waiting for you to explain how skeptical theism
you're not
doesn't
gonna answer
fall
my
under
question?
premise 2.
I'll answer that question as soon as you answer mine.
Well, no, I presented you premise 2 first.
Yeah, but you have to answer my question first before we can talk about that. Like, that's just how an honest dialogue works.
Yeah, okay. What is the question?
Talking about honest
Isn't
dialogue,
the premise
fucking
one,
word,
isn't
like-
that, dude, like, just relax before I get your boyfriend to dick you down again. Just calm down, okay? Now, anyway, back to
What
you,
is your
hosts,
problem,
right?
man? Can you not just be decent?
What is
You're a
yours?
Christian, right?
I am. Are you?
Like, you're supposed
really
to be
sound
decent
like
to
it.
people, aren't you? It's
Oh,
weird.
okay.
You're so violent.
Okay,
and
he's
weird
gonna
with
pull out
people,
the
man.
"you're a Christian" card. Okay, I'm a Christian who's beating your
Well, yeah,
ass.
you
Yeah,
are.
that's
You
the
are.
kind of
Love,
You are
Christian
joy,
I am.
aspiring to
peace,
be a good
patience,
person,
kindness,
right?
goodness,
I'm a
faithfulness,
Christian that's
gentleness,
bringing the
and
fight out of you.
self-control.
That's the kind
My
of Christian I am.
ass,
Yeah.
I don't
dude.
think-
Jesus
I don't think
Christ.
you're saying-
Your
you're
mom
saying-
raised
you're
you
saying-
in a
wait,
fucking
wait, hold
barn,
on.
you
Still
little
relax.
bitch.
He's
Calm
right now.
down.
He's trying to challenge
I'm
premise 1, but
perfectly
yet he's
chill with
that.
accepting
Calm down.
premise 1.
Thinking
Why
that
should I
I'm
even really
losing
care
control.
about you actually?
How does premise one not apply to you? hosts?
Why should I care if it does apply to me? Because
Wait,
it doesn't.
because-
The second that doesn't.
Then
that
it would be
doesn't.
self-defeating.
That doesn't give you an argument. That's even if I agreed to
if premise one applies to you,
Hold on,
then it would
Kay.
be
If I
self-defeating.
even if I didn't give you, even if I conceded that premise 1 still applies to me, premise 2 does not. Therefore, the argument does not fall under an argument for ignorance, right? I'm giving you
I
a
just wanna
syllogism
know-
for the argument for appeal to ignorance, right?
I just want to know if you think that premise one applies to you.
In what modal scope?
I never made any modal claims. Dude.
Yeah. So then, wait. How does it apply to me?
Yeah. How does it apply to you? He said what modal scope? Do you know what modality is, by the way? Like, are you familiar
Wait,
with
okay,
modality?
just you don't have to do all that.
Oh, okay,
Kay.
yeah, sure.
You don't have to do that.
Yeah, I forgot the gay boyfriend might step up and start,
No,
white
it's not.
knighting
It's
again.
not me. It's not.
Am I
How does
bring
it? How
your
does?
head now?
How does? I'm sorry.
You
How does
bring me
premise
up when I'm
one?
not
How does
saying-
What do you
premise
call a
one?
guy that's
How does
gay
premise
that's
one
white
apply to
knighting
me?
for another guy?
How does premise
Wait,
one
hold
apply
on.
to me?
Okay, wait, listen. I have a serious question. Okay,
I love that you took me on faith there.
You know how we usually call like a guy that sort of like Superman's for a girl, like
Do
a
you
white
have
knight.
like an
No,
issue
wait,
with
I'm
gay
not
people?
sorry.
What do
Okay,
you
I'm not
call-
listening. I can't hear you
what do you
beyond
call, like,
the
a gay guy who
non-answer
white
of how
knights for
premise one
another
doesn't
guy?
apply to me.
Can we?
Dodging.
How are you saying a premise one applies to me?
Because you are making the claim that it's not the case that God is like not a hypocrite because of the fact that you don't know the reasons that he has for allowing for certain evils.
Well, I'm rejecting the claim because of the lack of evidence. It's not an appeal to
Yeah,
ignorance.
but you're saying that the claim
it's
is
not
true,
an
right?
appeal to ignorance. I'm rejecting it because
Is
of
the
lack
claim
of
that you're
evidence.
rejecting true?
A rejection doesn't have to be true. It's a rejection.
I didn't say it has. I didn't make any claims about have to. I said, is it the case that the rejection that you're making is true?
Again, is it the case that the rejection I'm making is true? You're
The thing
asking
that you're
if the
rejecting,
rejection
is
is
it
true.
Yeah, the thing that you're rejecting, is it true? Is it the case that what you're rejecting is true?
You're asking if a rejection is true.
Holy fucking shit. Is there something confusing about the question? Yes, that's what I'm asking you. Answer the question.
A rejection can't be true. It's just a rejection. I mean, are you saying do I hold it true that I reject it? Yes.
Okay, so you would be, under your own notion, appealing to ignorance
Towards what?
towards the fact that God is not a hypocrite.
No, I can give
So
you.
you just
I can
cooked
give
yourself.
no.
You just
I
cooked
can give you
yourself.
literary text on how God is a hypocrite. I can give you
cooked
literary
yourself.
text
You
on
just
how
cooked
God is a
yourself.
hypocrite. Right? You
Just
don't
concede.
have any
Just
kind of
concede. You
text
cooked
to
yourself.
actually defend how God's not a hypocrite.
Look,
right?
you
So I have more of
just
a
cooked
justified
yourself.
view. It's not an appeal to ignorance. In fact, it's knowledge based
You just
upon
cooked
the
yourself.
scriptures that you believe in. Right? You believe these scriptures came from your
Look,
sky daddy. Right? You
GG's,
believe that
good
these
game.
scriptures actually
You just cooked
hold
yourself.
to be true. Right?
What do you
But
mean
you
good
won't have
game?
any
You're
actual
losing.
justification
Oh,
on
control.
why these true scriptures
This is
are
damage control.
holding to God being
What do you mean
justified
damage
when he
control?
has no justification
This
for
is damage
unaliving
control.
people.
He just smoked himself.
Can you-
Your
can
view
you-
is
No,
still-
I'm sorry.
your
I
view
couldn't
is
hear you over me
self-stultifying
trying to
because
overtalk you because you're being a little
over
quick,
you
right?
like coping over the fact that you just cooked yourself. Yeah, I agree.
Oh, you like coping?
Yeah, you were coping. Yeah.
Okay,
Just
come
like
on, grow
how-
up. I really don't fucking care about the rhetoric right now. Either answer the question or get the
You
fuck off the
obviously do.
panel, right? You can just leave.
I'm
I mean,
going
I could just
to- I'm
kick you,
going to
right?
get off-
Like, we could just not
mean,
have
you
this
can,
conversation
but you
because
over-
it's not being very
you can
productive.
kick me.
And I'm just going to keep talking
should
over
kick
you
me
until
right
you
now because you
honestly
cooked
actually
yourself.
answer the premise because you fail to actually face
You
these
keep
two
talking over me,
premises
it's gonna
and
make me look worse.
conclusion,
Like,
and
nobody
you
here thinks you
fail to be able to provide why it's not an appeal
don't
to
have to, like,
ignorance,
deep
right,
throat
Kay?
your mic, it's okay.
Isn't that right?
Leave the deep
You're
throat note to
failing
this
to
guy above
actually
me.
you're failing to actually defend premise
Stop
1 and
deep throating
premise
your
2,
mic. Just call it
right?
out.
You
Stop
cannot
deep throating
you
your
can't
mic.
defend it, right? W
If you kick me, by the way, your
W
view-
W
atheism
for
because you
second.
failed to
You're
the
provide
reason
that
why
skeptical
everybody's
Like,
here.
if you're
theism.
not
It doesn't
gonna
appeal to
engage the
ignorance.
argument,
views
you
are gonna calm it
lost.
down.
You
Maybe go
lost.
back to, like,
You
6 views.
lost. Oh my god! I can't believe it, Kay. You fucking lost.
Yeah, I lost.
I thought you were better than this,
Can't
Kay.
even
I thought
fucking
you were. I
engage in
don't
the
know. I thought you were
argument,
something
dude.
big. You just seem
I,
pretty
like,
fucking
can't.
small to me.
Wait, so let me just give a recap of the thing that they're
I've
saying.
never
Let me just give a recap of the arguments that these, like sort of new age atheists are giving nowadays.
Oh, no,
Don't
it's
forget.
fine. You don't need to.
New age atheist.
That's right.
I don't understand because he seemed like a really intelligent man.
I know.
He did seem really
Wait, wait, wait,
intelligent.
wait.
I don't
No,
know
he's
why
not.
he felt
He's
the
not.
need to be.
He's-
I don't know why he felt. Can I finish, dude?
remember-
Void, let me finish.
Yeah,
Can I finish
yeah.
my sentence, buddy? That'd be great. Thanks. I don't. Let's stop doing that, please. Why was the decorum so bad there? I don't know why Kay decided to be a prick to everybody for no reason. I didn't hear anyone being mean to him. I don't know what his issue is. If you can't discuss your beliefs reasonably and peaceably and amicably before someone insults you, like at that point, yeah, sure, go off. They've insulted you first, go for it, bud. But what the fuck is the deal? Why can't Christians behave like Christ? What's the problem with that? Why are you also bad at following your own religion?
No, this is how
Why are you
Christ
better at
behaves.
being a
This
Christian
is
than you?
exactly how Christ
How
behaves.
is that the case?
I think
It's really hang on. It's really not though. Christ doesn't behave that way. Christ
I-
literally
I-
avoids arguments of this nature in such direct fashion. He answers
in my-
like analogy and poetry and metaphor. He tries to dodge hard like asks by the Pharisees and stuff. He doesn't engage in vitriolic debate and he doesn't insult people randomly. He doesn't do that to people.
So I think he got heated there, but I'm not too sure. Jeez, I'm not too sure.
Bobby, Kay's an asshole. Like, I blocked him for a reason on both accounts. I forgot he existed.
I don't care if
Kay
you
is an
block
asshole.
him or not. Don't block him.
Hey, can you guys hear me? I don't know.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah. Okay. So, let me make sure that I'm gonna kind of like stillman your argument before we kind of get into the reasons why I think that there must be some mistake or something. Okay. So your arguments seem to be something like this, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think if we could go back into the recording or something, you'd say this almost verbatim. That in order for God to have some reason X or some reason X be justified to allow some evil, either God would reveal himself to have some reason, or Kay would give you an argument in favor of some reason,
Yeah, Kay
right?
couldn't
And the
give me
fact
an
that there is
argument.
no reason. Yeah, I mean that is an appeal to ignorance, right?
Right. That is
You're saying that-
exactly. Definitively, it's an appeal to ignorance.
No, what? Yeah, you just did that. Yeah, you did the appeal to ignorance, sir.
Wait, how did I do the appeal to ignorance?
Because you said that because Kay hasn't provided a reason and God hasn't given a reason for some view, then some reason doesn't exist. That's definitionally an appeal to ignorance.
No, it's not. It's a rejection. It's a rejection of a claim, right? Because if
What-
you
what
don't
do you
have any
think an appeal to
justification,
ignorance is?
if you don't have a justification to a claim, you have every right to reject it, right?
What do you think an appeal to ignorance is, right? It's when
Yeah,
you're
so it's going to be
asserting some
an appeal to
statement.
ignorance is going to be like holding to a claim even though you don't have any knowledge of why this claim is justified.
No, an appeal to ignorance is when you just hold, like, assert something for the lack of evidence for some proposition, right? And that's what you just did. You asserted that God can't have some reason. Like, it's not possible for God to have some reason because
No, I never
there's
said
like,
that. I never said that. I never said it was not possible.
You think it is possible?
All I was clearly stating. No, it's all I'm clearly stating is that because the Bible does not give us a clear reason, or not even the Bible, because we don't have a clear indication or reason of why this God goes beyond his standards or behind his standards. He crosses his standards. He has a hypocritical stance on his standards. And we don't have any reason to justify why he does this. Skeptical theism is an appeal to ignorance.
No, that's confused. So an appeal to ignorance again is just saying that you're asserting some proposition to be true or false in virtue of there being no evidence for the contrapositive, right? That's just typically how it's standardly understood.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
yes.
And you just did that. Yeah, you just did that. You said that some X is false, right? Like the Christian worldview is false because there doesn't exist some reason.
I said skeptical theism, specifically skeptical theism.
Well, either way, the X is just a variable there. You can replace that for either.
Right, but the X is kind of fucking important because skeptical theism
No,
is
the
only
X-
one mode. It's only one specific. It's only one specific view of Christianity, right?
Well, maybe you're confused on what I'm saying. Like, I'm saying that the structure is still valid because it's just like the X is just a variable there, right? Like, it's still an appeal to ignorance, even though that you can change the variable. I mean, that's just kind of how a variable works.
So, are you saying that? Are you saying that the rejection of the idea of a God is just pure appeal to ignorance?
No, the rejection of God in virtue of there being a lack of evidence, or like saying something's impossible, something like that, that's an appeal to ignorance.
The problem is, what Kay stipulated was that like there could be some reason for God to have certain propositions for a certain action that seems to be evil, right? He did not offer any evidence, not even an argument. He didn't offer an argument for that. So it's rendered useless to have this conversation, right?
Well, there's a couple things to say to that too. Like, okay, so typically there's two camps of skeptical theism, right? So there's the camp that will say that skeptical theism is like endowed by God's divine nature, right? Because obviously there's like an infinite gap between like the human mind and then like God's divine mind, and so obviously God can have like divine knowledge and humans don't have that because we don't have the capacity to understand that. And then there's the kind of camp that will say something like, well, look, maybe it's not logically impossible or like metaphysically impossible to understand knowledge, like divine knowledge or something, but at least there serves a good reason to believe that if God does exist and God has a divine nature, that we wouldn't have access to these kind of reasons, right? It seems expected under the hypothesis, right? Like, you would probably say, like, and this is one motivation to think that, like, you'd probably say that there exists some reason to you as an adult that you probably couldn't conceptually convey to like a 2-year-old, right? And the same kind of principle applies to the skeptical theist view, right? They're saying that God has an infinite mind, humans don't, so it's kind of expected under the hypothesis that we wouldn't have the same conceptual understanding of like God's reasons. Yeah.
I would disagree with you because like there are when we're passing down information towards individuals, normally we're passing down information distilled in order for it to be comprehensible, right? And that's the same with kids. Even ideas of unalive is something that is still distilled down in certain actions, like a child trying to smack a fly or whatever. So I would only disagree in the fact like we don't give the full context, but we will distill it down in something comprehensible. The problem is God does something that is an action. That action seems to be immoral, and the thing is there is no explanation why other than it is his divine nature to